in. It's good that there's a lot of chatter, people getting to know each other. We're so happy that you are here this morning. I want to give a heartfelt welcome to everyone. My name is Lauren Drummond Littrell, and I am the founder and board president of Love One Another Ministries, based here in St. Louis. Our mission is to promote healing, restoration, and racial reconciliation, and we do that with adults, and we also do that with students, grades 7th through 12th grade, and through the Unity Lab program. So I also worked as a chaplain in behavioral health. I worked with a lot of young people in crisis during that time. And I also have 4 children, 2 bonus children, ages 21 down to 17. So I am very familiar with young people and some of the issues that they are facing right now. And so I'm grateful and I'm honored to be here to MC this event because it's critical. So welcome again, and thank you so very much. I'd like to I want to tell you a little bit about her. Dr. Connor is the Director of Counseling Services and Prevention Services here at Harris-Stowe State University. She holds a PhD in Higher Education Administration and a Master's of Science degree in Marriage and Family Counseling, and she is a licensed professional counselor. Dr. Connor has more than 15 years of experience facilitating workshops and geared toward family engagement, trauma-informed care, and intergenerational trauma. Won't you join me in giving Dr. Connor a warm welcome? Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Okay, good. Welcome. We are so excited to be able to host this event here at Harris-Stowe State University. I would first like to give welcome to the Missouri 988 Roadshow. This is the reason why we stand here today, and it's a much-needed event, and so I say thank you. I would also like to give recognition to our First Lady President of Harris-Stowe State University, Dr. LaTanya Collins-Smith, Danielle Pyle, who has also been on this organization with us from the athletics department, Casey Dow from Learfield, our Director of 988, Monica Johnson, Chief 98 Lifeline, Tia Dole, our Director of Behavioral Health, Nora Bach, Chief Clinical Officer of Behavioral Health Responses, Dr. Bart Andrews, Dr. Sean Joe. I would also like to give special thanks for Casey Muckler, who's been a big resource for us here, Sarah Hartness, Laura Eisenberg, Deborah Walker, and all the other representatives that I might have missed. Thank you so much to all of our students and representatives, especially our Harris-Stowe State University students. Thank you for being a part of this most critical event that we are hosting today. And I will tell you, Harris-Stowe, our students here, we come together, we know how to support, we know how to engage, and we are learning day by day how to hold each other up. So we have had a great group of students here. We are shining the spotlight on 988. It's a suicide crisis lifeline for Missouri, and we are about action to take call to prevent suicide. Suicide has been a major public health problem with far-reaching social, emotional, and economic consequences. It is estimated that there are currently more than 700,000 suicides per year worldwide. We know that each suicide profoundly affects many more people than just that. So this month, we would like to give recognition from the mental health advocates, our prevention organizations, our survivors, our allies, and community members. Thank you all for the work that you continue to promote around suicide awareness. At this time, I would like to welcome to the platform or the podium our Missouri Lieutenant Governor Mike Kehoe.
Well, thank you, Dr. Connor. It's great to be here today, and thank you so much for Harris Stowe hosting this event today. Dr. Connor is opposite of me. I was born and raised in St. Louis and moved to Jefferson City. She was born and raised in Jefferson City and moved to St. Louis, so we crossed paths somewhere along the line. It's great to be with our friend Joe Palm. I'm so happy he's here today, and you'll hear from him in a minute. Dr. Connor, Ms. Powell, all the other roundtable participants, I appreciate you guys all being here today. A couple of shout outs real quickly. Our Missouri Department Mental Health Director, who's not with us but is very involved, and you'll hear from some of her key folks. Director Valerie Hune has done a great job taking 988 and bringing it to a new level for the state of Missouri along with her team. Certainly thank you to President Smith for hosting us again, and the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, our SAMHSA, I say SAMHSA, for hosting this event. This is incredibly important to the state of Missouri and to Lieutenant Governor and all of his cabinet members. I can tell you that in the last 2 years, we've committed almost $30 million to 988, and that's how important it is to us. As my role as Lieutenant Governor and all Lieutenant Governors before me, we are also the advocate for our state's veterans. And I can tell you veterans crisis is incredible in this country as well. We lose 22 veterans a day to suicide. And Paul Kirchhoff, who runs our Veterans Commission, and his veteran service officers are very aware and very much engaged from the beginning when the governor set up a task force to look at this and what 988 could do, not for our entire state, but also for our veterans community, and we're incredibly proud of that. There are 7 988 centers in Missouri answering calls, texts, and chats for the state. The trained crisis specialists at each center will listen, work to understand how the individual experience is affecting them, provide support to connect them to services and resources. In Missouri, we have established evidence-based care continuum with 988 at its core, ensuring responsive crisis service accessible to anyone in crisis, anytime they need it, anywhere they in the state. Missouri is recognized as one of the top 10 states in the nation for call and response to calls and texts, and I can tell you that we've answered over 51,000 calls and 6,200 texts and 8,100 chats. That's a lot of people who are reaching out in crisis. And there's likely nobody in this room, including my wife Claudia, who's here with me, and myself, who haven't experienced mental health issues in a very personal level. I can tell you it's affected our family. I can tell you it's affected some families here. Some of you might not even know it. But there's always people out there looking for somebody they can talk to, looking for that help, looking for somebody that tells them they love them and care about them. And 988 has made such a difference. And so from a personal level, we are very appreciative as well. Since the launch, Missouri is continually ranked in the top 10 of making sure that we're answering those calls. We enlisted partners from the very beginning, Borough Health, Compass Health, and then up here on the east side, the Behavioral Health Response Center, and making sure that these partner agencies understand how important it is to figure out ways to get to the Missourians who need help and then respond to them. We've achieved significant process improvement with this, but the media is here today and we could use the help. You know, I'm a small business person by trade, not a professional politician, and it's all about branding and building awareness. And you can buy ads, you can tell people about 988, but you can also depend on the media partners that we have here and others across the state and this nation, quite frankly, as it is a national initiative, to make sure we're spreading 988 as a way to go. And one of the things that I like to quote is I think most people in this room remember that Senator Roy Blunt was an unbelievable champion, our former Missouri senator, for mental health issues. And certainly we've been fortunate to call him a friend, and I was super proud of him and what he did in representing our state. But Roy would say to you, if he was here today, for 50 years, people have been able to call 911 when their house is on fire. Now we have somebody with a mental health crisis who can call 988. And I think that's a very poignant point that Senator Blunt would always make. I look forward to the meaningful discussion on today's panel, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate these men and ladies opening up their hearts and minds and experiences to what this crisis center has done and what 988 has done for other people, and we are extremely grateful. I mentioned in the very beginning that we have kind of a local rock star with us in Joe Palm, and I'm going to introduce him. He's with Health and Human Services. He's our regional director for 7 states, Iowa, Kansas, Missouri, Nebraska, and 9 federally recognized tribes. He is a native of St. Louis, Missouri, and one of Joe's most proud things that he's done, I think, is serving his community as a firefighter. And we talked about that earlier. So he's been saving lives longer than most people know. He's assistant to the chief of staff of St. Louis in the past of the mayor's office. He was also legislature research in the Missouri State Capitol and is assistant to the chief of staff in Missouri's 1st Congressional District office. Please help me welcome our regional director, Joseph Palm.
Thanks, Governor Keogh. We've been friends a long time, and I can tell you we're really blessed to have you fighting for the state of Missouri. I'm from St. Louis also, so I guess it's a St. Louis lineup. How many Hornets we got out here? Let me see. Y'all kind of quiet. How many Hornets we got out here? Look, in the back there, in the blue, I want to see the Hornets. There you go. You know, I attended grad school with your president, Dr. Collins, so I know her a little different. We both joked with each other a lot, and we made it through. It was a real program. But I want to say good morning, everyone. I'm Joe Palm. I'm Regional Director for the United States Department of Health and Human Services. I want to thank the Missouri Department of Mental Health, Valerie Hoon, and her staff. I want to thank Monica Johnson for being the director of 988, because that's just a great program. I want to thank Harris Stowe. I want to thank all of you who have come here today to celebrate the giant leap forward that this country made last year with the launch of 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. It was no small undertaking and no small accomplishment to pull together hundreds of organizations to operate more than 200 call centers throughout the nation. And the service that staff of these centers do is truly remarkable. It might be called the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline, but what the counselors who staff these centers actually do is empower people when they are most in need. You know, Governor Kehoe was talking about that when you call 911, firefighters come. I know about that. And now it's very important for you that's sitting out here that if you have a mental health crisis, you can call 988 and somebody will be there for you. I've visited these call centers. They're dedicated. They work hard. And they're compassionate, and they want to help you. And they do it in multiple ways, by speaking to callers, by texting with people on their cell phones, or by chatting with them on their computers. To pull this off, the Biden administration last year boosted federal investments in the Lifeline by 18-fold, from $24 million to $432 million. This was done simply because it was needed in this country. The Crisis Lifeline was undertaken to address the rapidly rising suicide rate, particularly among Black teenagers, Native Americans, Latinos, and residents of rural areas. From 2010 to 2020, the suicide rate rose 43% among Blacks. I'm going to read that again. The suicide rate rose 43% among blacks. This is a very important lifeline. 41% among Native Americans and 27% among Latinos. The new crisis lifeline, a simple 3-digit number, has been a resounding success. The Kaiser Family Foundation study found that the nationwide number of calls, texts, and chats in the first full month of operation jumped by 45% compared with calls to the old suicide prevention hotline. Yet, the 6 network crisis centers in Missouri responded locally to 94% of these calls, texts, and chats. Congratulations, you're doing a great job. Let's keep going. These are Missouri people caring for fellow Missourians. But 988 is more than a number. It is a message. It says, we're there for you. Through this and other actions, HHS is showing that mental health is a priority, and we are putting crisis care within the reach of more Americans. We're always finding ways to reach out to individuals to get people the help they need before it becomes a crisis. One example that I'm real proud to talk about is the National Institute of Health, which partnered with Omega Psi Phi, the nation's oldest black fraternity, in a program known as Brother, You're on My Mind. Brother, You're on My Mind. It's a project designed to change the national dialogue about mental health among black men. I'm a black man. Black men, we need to start talking more about mental health. We got to start talking more about mental health to save lives. And the Crisis Lifeline helps connect thousands of people with the mental health care that they need when they need it. It also shows just what we can accomplish when we work together. You know, I dealt with mental health as a firefighter, and I'll tell you something, my mom's 33 years clean. And I know what it's like to deal with addiction because I got injured, and I had to take pills, and I had problems coming off the pills. And my mom was the reason I was able to come off the pills. She taught me an acronym called HALT. Never let yourself become too hungry. Never let yourself become too angry. Never let yourself become too lonely. And never let yourself become too tired. And my mom probably saved my life. And I'm thankful to my mom. Talk to her pretty much every day. Don't be ashamed to talk to somebody, to call 988. And I hope that all of you have great mental health, peace and love to you, and may God bless each and every one of you.
Thank you so much, Regional Director Palm. Thank you again to Lieutenant Governor Kehoe and to Dr. Connor. Again, thank you all so much. At this time, we want to take a few minutes to show you a video that really brings home the message of the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. Are we ready to show that?
I tell students all the time, you are the future. Well, if the future looks bleak to them, you know, that's not something that they really want to necessarily hear.
Over the last 21 years, the percentage of stories that are about negative things have increased exponentially. We're scaring our kids to death.
When you don't know that
Thank you. All right. I'm going to grab my water and move my chair over here so I can be closer to you all. And I'm going to introduce everyone. I'm so grateful that all of you are here. Got a chance to meet some of these wonderful, distinguished people earlier. I'm going to start with Dr. Monica Johnson. She is the 988 and Behavioral Health Crisis Coordinating Office Director with SAMHSA. and we can hold our applause until the end. Kelly Clark is next to her. Kelly is the Vice President of 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline with Vibrant Emotional Health. Nora Bach, actually I have it out of order here, I'm so sorry. Next to Nora I have Tyler Hans. Tyler is Director of Text and Chat with DeafLead. Welcome. I haven't met Hermes, but we have next to Tyler Hermes Falcon, who is a youth cast panelist and youth with lived experience. Thank you so much for being here. Next to Hermes, I have Dr. Sean Joe. Dr. Joe is the Benjamin E. Youngdahl Professor of Social Development at Washington University here in St. Louis. Thank you. Next to Dr. Joe, I have Toshalyn Whitworth, who is a student here at Harris Stowe. Thank you for being here. And next to Toshalyn, Alan Samples, who is also a student here at Harris Stowe. Thank you. Next to Alan, I have Daniel Guest. Daniel Guest is the Peer Crisis Specialist for Behavioral Health Response. And next to Daniel, I have Dr. Bart Andrews, who is the Chief Clinical Officer of Behavioral Health Response. And I'm not seeing down there. There you go. I have next to Dr. Andrews is Nora Bach. And Nora is the Director of Behavioral Health with the Missouri Department of Mental Health. And right there on the end is Felicia Spratt. And she is the Vice President of Justice and Crisis Response. I know we changed that, but she is the Vice President of Justice and Crisis with Behavioral Health Response. So thank you to all of you for being here. I'm going to move over and sit with you, and we're going to start with our questions. I'm going to start with you, Monica Johnson. This July, as we've already heard, marked the 1-year anniversary to the transition of the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. Can you tell us, or please tell us about what that means to people who are in crisis, who are seeking support, and why this transition was a pivotal step towards transforming the country's behavioral health crisis system?
Sure, thank you. First of all, I'm so happy to be here. I'm here on behalf of SAMHSA. We are the federal agency that is responsible for administration of the 988 Lifeline. I want to thank Harris Stowe for inviting us and allowing us to share this space with you. And I want to thank the state of Missouri. This is my first time in the Show Me State, and so you're showing up pretty well. We're doing to mark the 1-year anniversary of 988 going live, which just passed July 16th. We've been doing a road show. This is the first college that we have visited. So one time for Harris Stowe for that. And it's a HBCU. This conversation today is so important, and I only have a few minutes, so I want to talk to you all right here. So these first couple of rows of young men that look like my sons, I'm a mother, and I have 2 sons, Noah and Micah, 21 and 18 years old, both college-age kids, and so young adults. I'm trying to learn how to parent them in a different way as young adults. And one of the things that I do know, and why this is important, and when we get back to 988 in a second, is that it's not just about waiting until you are in a crisis. It is about being able to understand that mental health is about all of us. It doesn't look a certain way. Any of us experience some moment in time where we're not showing up in our best way, emotionally or mentally. And so for my young men that look like my sons, I want you to remember, if nothing else, the number 988, because if you're ever in a space where you're not sure who to talk to. You're feeling some type of way, you don't have a name for it, 988 is there for you. It gives you someone to talk to in a safe space. And if you need additional support beyond that, it is there for you as well. For my young women that are out there that I'm looking at right here, I see you. I see you. So you all are growing up in this social media world, right? And so we get pumped up around what we see and everything gets amplified. I want you to know that you are real and you are seen. And so remembering in those moments that when it's just you, that you have a resource, and that's what 988 is, and it's here for each of you. So you all are going to promise me that you're going to remember that number, and you're going to tell at least 3 people. Say, I promise, Ms. Johnson. Okay. Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Powerful. As a mother of 2 black sons myself, I thank you. Thank you for being real and saying that and being honest. Okay, Kelly Clark, we're going to come to you next. Want to know, first of all, want you to tell us about vibrant health, emotional health history and current administration, the history with and the current administration of the 988 Lifeline. How is it structured? What can people expect when they reach out, and what specialized services are available?
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you also, Harris Stowe. Thank you, Lieutenant Governor, Dr. Connor, and also Director Palm. Look, Vibrant has the honour of really having been the administrator of the Lifeline since 2005, which was when it was originally established. And as the administrator, we work with our network of 215 contact centres, and you heard the reference before about 7 centres that are located here in Missouri, including Deaf Lead and BHR, who are on stage here with us. And those services help to provide support to people 24/7 in a way that works best for those individuals. So offering services via phone, text and chat really are important because support doesn't look the same for everyone. People might be more willing to talk via text and chat than maybe they would be over the phone. They may not have the privacy as well to be able to provide services, to be able to access services over the phone. And what we've seen since 988 has launched is a really significant increase that in terms of the amount of people who have been reaching out. In the first year since the transition to 988, there has been a significant increase in terms of how we have worked with specialised services to increase access for everyone. We heard Lieutenant Governor speaking earlier in terms of the crisis with veterans, and the Veterans Crisis Line specialised service was actually one of the first specialised services that existed for the Lifeline. So when you reach out to 988, what you hear is a menu that allows you to choose for yourself if you want to access one of these services. Pressing 1 connects you to the Veterans Crisis Line. Pressing 2 connects you to our Spanish subnetwork. So if you feel more comfortable speaking in Spanish to access your support in Spanish, you have that option to press 2. Now that's been in place since 2006 for calls, but it was exciting that in July of this year, we were able to extend that to include chat and text services in Spanish as well. The other sub-network and specialised service that we have increased this year has been a LGBTQI+ youth subnetwork. So in September, we piloted this program, and what we saw was a significant amount of the volume that 988 actually got was being routed to this pilot program. And that ranged from 6% to 17% of overall volume, depending on what channel people were reaching out. What it really did, though, was indicate to us that we needed an entire subnetwork that was dedicated to helping individuals, to helping young people who identify as LGBTQ+, to be able to access services in a way that felt safe for them. And so once an individual has identified if they want to connect to a specialised service, or if they want to connect to the local network, what they'll do is they'll connect with a counsellor who will work with that individual to identify what it is that's prompted them to reach out today. We work very much from the notion that crisis is self-defined. And because of that, there isn't a script that counsellors will follow. They'll work with that individual to see what has been the catalyst that's had you reach out today. What supports do you have in your network that you might be able to leverage? What are the coping skills that you have? They can work on a safety plan to make sure that someone stays safe, and if needed, they can help to connect you with services in the community. We know from research that that conversation alone with a trained counsellor results in people feeling less depressed, less anxious, less suicidal, and more hopeful by the end of the conversation. Absolutely. And so knowing that that support is available for you 24/7, as I said, in the mode of contact that works for you best, in English or in Spanish, when you maybe don't have other folks to talk to at the time, I think is really important for everyone to know that that support is there for you.
Very important. Thank you so much. I appreciate you, that information. Okay. Tyler, share a little bit about your experience as a crisis counselor, and then also what happens when someone text chats in. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I started as a crisis counselor at DeafLead in 2016. And before I go further, I should thank everyone for being here. Harris Stowe, thank you for having us. For every single one of you that's in this room, even if it was just to get the cool fidget spinner out on the table, just really appreciate you all being here and being part of this conversation today. Back to 2016, when I started as a crisis counselor as a volunteer. I needed it for a class that required volunteer hours. I was working on a degree in music performance, which I'm up here without any kind of musical instrument, so that didn't really pan out the way that I thought that it would. And fell in love with it, and decided to change my trajectory to social work, specifically suicide intervention and mental health. So in July of 2020, our CEO at DeafLead took a bit of a gamble, because I am 29 and can't wait to turn 29 again next year, but took a bit of a gamble on me when I was 25 to become a part of the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline as a chat and text center, and for me to be the director of that program. And we have been committed to it ever since. And as a crisis counselor, I think there are two big things that I learned, and I'm still learning every single day now as a director. And the first is that this work takes a team. You can reach out to 988, you can get connected with a crisis counselor, and that is one piece of the work that we need to do to provide support to folks who are experiencing mental health crisis. It takes a team, and we are obligated to consistently assess and reassess and understand that we've had a wildly successful year with 988, and it's on us to commit to knowing that that work is not done. The areas where we can improve still exist, and we have an obligation to celebrate the success and focus on what we need to do better for the next year. When you reach out to chat and text specifically, you can expect a few things that I think you did a beautiful job of covering, so I'm not really sure, you stole my question. I'm not really sure what to add on other than just show of hands. Who here is like a millennial, Gen Z age? Can I just okay. Who here doesn't like talking on the phone? Every millennial and Gen Z should just keep your hand up. We know that the younger generations we get to, the less and less people like talking on the phone. I answered phones as a crisis counselor, and I get it. People might not be comfortable with talking on the phone. That can be very vulnerable and personal, and while that is something that is appreciated and can be helpful, sometimes it can get in the way of actually having the conversation that we need to have, which is why providing a medium in the form of text message, you can text the number 988 or reaching out online, provides more access, provides other avenues for people to reach out, talk to us about what it is that they need to talk about. The other thing that I've learned through my work as a counselor and now as a director is that mental health crises, mental health needs affect everyone. There is not an identity, a demographic that is immune to experiencing mental health crisis, to experiencing emotional distress, which means that we, again, have an obligation as the people who are providing these services to be as flexible, as adaptable, as diverse. And we're doing a fantastic job of that. And again, my motto as the director of Crisis Chat and Text at Deaf Lead is that we did good. How are we going to do better? And that is what we are always looking towards. So again, thank you all so much for being here. Tell all your friends about 988. We have folks who are ready and happy to talk to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Tyler. Appreciate that. We're going to move on to Hermes. Want to know, first of all, what challenges you have encountered. I know you're going to share a little bit, but when promoting mental health awareness and then also advocating for improvement in services like 988, something that Tyler just spoke about, always looking to do better. So, mic not on? Let's see. Can you switch? Oh, yeah. Maybe we can.
Perfect. First of all, thank you so much for having me here. It's really awesome to be here and to be able to talk to everyone. When it comes to advocating and hoping for change, working through YouthCast Media, the two challenges that I've mostly seen have been trust and platform. First, with trust, unfortunately, before 988, emergency medical health services hasn't really been kind to communities of color, the disabled community, and the LGBTQ+ community. So now with 988, many people are wondering if it has changed, if it has improved. And despite the numbers showing that positive changes have been made, like response times have gotten shorter, and a very small percentage of mental health calls require dispatch to be sent to locations, a lot of people are still afraid because it's very difficult to forgive a system that's hurt you in the past. And then in terms of platform, through YouthCast Media Group, we were fortunately given a grant by the Zazoze Foundation where we're paid to make TikToks about decriminalizing mental health, decriminalizing mental illness in 988. But when it comes to TikTok and making videos, the For You page and the algorithm works in mysterious ways that no one really has the capability to ever master. And so when it comes to making videos, we just have to do what we can to follow the trends, like do what we can to make sure that we're sharing the information that we want, and just hope that the videos get to the people that we want the videos to reach to.
So if you wouldn't mind sharing with us part of your story.
No, yeah, of course. So I'm part of the LGBTQ+ community. I'm also disabled, and I'm Cuban American. I'm first gen. And growing up in Miami, you don't really see a lot of people like me. And if there were, a lot of people always kept quiet about their identity. And so in order to hide myself, in order to pretend to be strong, it's very easy to lose yourself in that. And so as a result, I struggled a lot with mental illness. I was diagnosed with depression and anxiety very early on, something that you don't really want your child to go through. And despite my parents not really seeing eye to eye on the LGBTQ+ identity, they did realize that they never wanted to see their child get hurt. And so unfortunately, I was able to cross that boundary with my parents and kind of get therapeutic services, get the help that I need. And I'm here because not a lot of people get that. Because like I said, it's very easy to lose yourself in acting strong. And when you don't really see people like yourself, you don't feel like there's help for you. You don't feel like there's anything out there that can help you. And so I feel like with the upgrade of 988 from the original number and the changes that are being made, it's really important to reach out to communities that might not know about the number, just to be able to share that there is someone or something out there that will make that weight off their shoulders much lighter.
Hermes, thank you so much for being vulnerable in this space with us and for the work that you're doing and the advocacy that you're providing. We're going to, yes. So we're going to shift a little bit. Today's event, as we know, is youth-focused, youth-centered, especially the BIPOC youth, Black, Indigenous, and people of color. Dr. Joe, this is your wheelhouse, right? This is something that you are an expert in. Please share with us about your remarkable body of work addressing the challenges related to improvements in mental health services for at-risk communities, populations, and then also what are some of the major accomplishments and where should efforts be focused going forward?
Good afternoon, good morning, depends on where you're at. Well, thank you all. You know what, I'm listening, I prepared some remarks. This work around suicide and suicide prevention, particularly for Black Americans, I began my journey in this work in Partnership and Hope in, 1998? I might not look that old, but I am. Really centered on the idea that it was critically important that Black Americans understand and suicide prevention, but more important that the systems related to suicide prevention really focuses on that population and why. So I'm going to change my remarks up and I'm going to try to answer your question. Because I'm looking out here and I'm seeing those who are responsible for making sure care is in place, but then I'm also seeing those who are going to need the services, or you're going to be in touch with someone who's going to need the services. And they might not show up to you because they say, I'm depressed, but it'll show up to you because you see the actions and behaviors, how much they're drinking, how much they're partying, how much they're being to themselves, how much they're saying, I'm not happy with the state of life. And I'm looking at you and I'm saying, at some point, you are going to have to be a lifesaver. And it might be as simple as 988, to connect them to people and resources that you don't know. So suicide among Black Americans primarily hits those under the age 35. The group with the highest risk, those 20 to 24. Males account for 80% of those suicides. Doesn't mean sisters are not at risk, but I'm telling you, this 988 is a lifesaver. So as much as you hear this, you know I got a long day, I got schoolwork, I got other things, don't leave here without realizing that your knowledge about 988 can save a life. What we don't know, this work has been challenging, because often we didn't know that Blacks committed suicide and who is most at risk. Often we didn't know what mental health services were available and what really works. Hermes says something very carefully, trust. If we don't trust that something is effective, that can work for us, you're more than likely not going to tell anybody about it. Coaches, this is critically important. Trust that at least right now, it's taking more than 20 years since I've been involved for us to launch an easier system of support that someone can call and connect you to an array of services in the region, whether it's St. Louis or you're traveling between St. Louis and Kansas City. So the challenge in the work has always been to understand and do more research and to be able to build services that are effective. So critically important right now, we're making advances. One, how do you engage, how do you get Black Americans to engage in mental health care? You make sure it's effective. You make sure that's available. And 9888 brings a new capacity to make sure things are available. The other thing I wanted to be able to say, and I'm going to call out, I see some men from Kappa Alpha Psi. Y'all know them? Yeah, that's a group over there. And I have, you know, as a long-standing member, because, you know, Director Palm, you know, highlighted the other 1911 group member. So I figured I'd do that as a fair return, just to have a little balance here. I've spent the last 5 years either burying a brother or reaching out to help save a brother. And these are CEOs and very successful men because they are going through emotional and behavioral health crisis. Some are even suicidal. So for all of you, I'm just telling you, pay attention to this small thing. The fact that you might reach out and just ask someone how they're doing, and if you hear they're not doing well and say, I don't know what to do, put them in touch with someone who might, and it's as simple as 988. I just did that this weekend, traveling to Chicago to find a friend who has everything. He makes enough money that will make all of us hungry, but he's not happy. So as a friend, I had to be my brother's keeper. You might not know everyone who's going to answer the line, and this line has to be prepared to be able to understand who you are and the context that you might be dealing with. But more important, you can help save someone's life by just putting them in touch with someone who might be able to give them a bridge to hope. So with that in mind, that's my takeaway. 988 is critically important because most of you and your siblings and your cousins will get referred to an emergency room. For things that doesn't need an emergency room attention, it really needs connecting to chat. It really needs connecting to someone who can help you to say, de-escalate the current moment and put you in touch with someone else. A majority of our young people in this city gets referred in that way, or to get referred from someone who is not prepared to be able to answer that call. And I'm gonna close here. I'm fortunate that Tyler reminded me that he was in my suicide prevention class years ago. And I started that class after more than 15 to 20 years in suicide prevention and said we never had a course in most social work schools for suicide. And I said, let's do the class. And I partnered with an excellent clinician, Ryan Lindsay. And the fact that Tyler's here, because that was the only class that touched that topic and went that deeply. And then he changed. So with that in mind, I say thank you, and I thank you, Dr. House, for making sure that I'm here.
Well, we are fortunate to have a couple of Harris-Stowe State University students with us on the panel. Thank you for being here and being so willing to share, Tashalyn and Alan, about your mental health journey. So Tashalyn, we'll start with you. Tell us about how you've been personally impacted. Sorry, we'll pass down the mics that are on. Thank you.
I really don't need a mic, but hello. So mental health has always been a struggle in my life and in my community, but it's something that my community never talked about and something that was never talked about in my household either, especially suicide. And so since I grew up in a household where we didn't talk, I learned to like weather my storms by myself. But when I came to college, I learned that if I wanted to be my best me, I couldn't do that. And so I had to seek help. And seeking help was the hardest part for me, which is why, one of the reasons why me and my girl Jada, shout out to her, started the Women's Wellness Org at Harris-Stowe so we could bring outside resources to our school. And we still struggle with our own stuff every day, but we just trying to show each other that we don't gotta struggle alone. It's okay not to be okay. And we don't have to fight our storms alone, and we can fight them together. And so I just encourage people to not suffer in silence. If something going on, talk about it. Share your story, like your story is powerful. And yeah, and 988 and BHR, they have been resources that have helped Harris-Stowe and helped us accomplish that goal of bringing resources to Harris-Stowe. So yeah, just keep writing y'all stories, and I'm glad everybody here today.
Thank you.
Greetings. How's everybody doing today? I'm happy to be here on behalf of Harris-Stowe and Black Male Initiative. How I would say that my mental health journey has impacted me personally. I really never, have had any issues with like suicide or anything, but I grew up in a household where my pops, he was mentally discharged from the military. So just like dealing with that, growing up dealing with that, it made me become an advocate for mental health resources. I took on psychology, just to try to be able to help give back to the community and help. My biggest thing is that if you are struggling with anything right now, you have made it through 100% of your worst days. So just make sure that you are using those resources because you never know like when somebody is like at their end.
Thank you so much, Alan. We appreciate it. Daniel Guest, you work, who's next? Yeah, it's Daniel. You work as a peer crisis counselor. I know we've heard a lot so far about what our young people are facing, but tell us from your perspective some of what you're seeing, especially in at-risk communities.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. I think it's afternoon, but I sit here as a peer specialist, and that means I have lived experience. I've been with BHR for, I don't know, 3 years. I'm in my terrible twos and threes at BHR. But my lived experience started really with BHR's original suicide crisis line. I was someone who struggled with depression as early as college, didn't understand what that was, did not know who to go to. And then several years later, I had an experience where I made an attempt on my own life. And thank God for algorithms and searching ways to die, that something popped up in my timeline with a phone number. And in the middle of the night after that unsuccessful attempt, I made that call. And little did I know it was BHR on the other end of the line. And that person talked with me for 2 hours. And I thought, man, they will never understand what I'm going through. And that person prayed with me. She wasn't a Christian, but she knew I needed that support. Coming into college, I view this as my own experience, and also my son, my stepson, whose father was incarcerated, attending college for the first time. He was an athlete, top of his game, and he fell apart his freshman year. Now, luckily, because I had that experience, I was able to figure out that pretty quick. But coming into historically black colleges, colleges that are predominantly white, it is a very stressful environment for everyone, but even more so for African Americans. You're dealing with things that maybe your white counterparts are not dealing with. You're dealing with funding, whether or not that financial aid came through. Are you going to be able to stay in your class? Are they going to drop you? How am I going to eat? Maybe you're living off campus and you're trying to figure out how do you get to your job, get back to school, and so forth. All of those challenges are happening. Plus, you're dealing with what I call, or what Dr. William A. Smith calls, racial battle fatigue. You're exhausted. The constant discrimination that seems unceasing, the threats of defunding diversity and equity programs. You may see it on the news, but it sinks into your psyche, making you think, I don't belong here. The other thing that I think we don't give enough, or we don't talk about enough, is the imposter syndrome. We feel like, I probably shouldn't be here. It took me 3.5 years at the University of Illinois and running into a professor to determine that I should be there. People kept telling me, well, you don't write very good, right? Anybody heard that before? You can't even get your concepts out. So you're dealing with a plethora of things that are going on, and I'm here to tell you, I'm validating your experience right now. It's real. And we're talking about 988. I didn't have that. It is a stigma that we do not talk about our mental health. It makes us weak, right? Many of you are coming to the school as heads of your families, so you don't have time to have issues, right? Text 988. There are people on the other, and I know some of them personally, who are on the other end that are working their butts off to ensure that you get the support that you need. Culturally competent support, meaning they not only understand race, but they're starting to understand cultural differences and some of the pressures that you're facing. So with that said, 988 is something I want you to leave here with, but also is the Divine Nine, right? All the fraternities and sororities. Make that part of your mission on this campus. We need you not just for parties and stepper shows, but we need you to invest in a service mindset to help each other out. Across campus, even those not a part of your organization, we are in this together. And this is the only way that we're going to be successful. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I just want to say, before we move on, we're going to shift gears a little bit. I just want to say thank you to those of you who have shared your personal stories and being vulnerable again in this space. It could be so helpful to some of the young people out here. So thank you again for doing that. We're going to shift gears, to shift our focus to look more deeply at the state of Missouri. And so I want to ask Dr. Andrews, Dr. Bart Andrews, the implementation of the 988 Lifeline impacted the volume and the nature of the calls coming in by Missouri Local Mental Health Services. If you can expand on that. Yeah.
So when we talk about call volume, one of the things that folks don't realize is that there are centers like the centers in Missouri's 988 system that are checking our volume every hour of every day, all day long, all week long, all year long. So we pay really close attention to that volume. And there's some things we pay close attention to and why the numbers matter. We look at our answer rate. What percentage of callers that call into 988 are getting a live answer, a clinician, a helper is there to help them? How long they're waiting, right? And these metrics are really important because when someone is in a suicide crisis, we don't want them in hold. We don't want them waiting. We don't want to lose them. We need somebody to pick up right away. And so when we look at what unfolded with 988 in Missouri is that our volume increased, and it started increasing significantly. Last July, I think our volume went up about 50% when we did just a soft rollout. We didn't do any full marketing, but our volume went up, and our volume has continued to go up across the state, and there's some reasons for that. So in terms of what we're talking about in terms of volume, Missouri is handling 4,000 to 5,000 988 calls every single month. That's on top of the other crisis system that we laid 988 on top of, the Access Crisis Intervention System. So those calls are still coming in as well. So we more than doubled, if not tripled, our call volume when 988 went live, right? The things that's driving 988 volume, and you've heard people talking about this, one of the things that's absolutely key is that we normalize help seeking. And what we used to have to tell people is, oh, well, we need to find out which crisis line you're going to call, what local area are you, what county are you in, what jurisdiction are you in. Yet there was this Rubik's Cube of which number this person needed to call. Now at a national level, we can literally just tell people, call 988, text 988, go to the website and chat to 988. So that improved accessibility has increased our volume quite a bit. More people are calling, and one of the things that we're seeing particularly is we're seeing younger folks calling, which is a really big deal. That's helpful, but we need even more folks calling that are older because we've got a couple of different crises going on around suicide. Younger folks are increasing, but our older folks, particularly our older men, are really struggling as well, and that's often a population that gets overlooked. So the hard work, there is a website, I believe it's Missouri 988. If you literally just go to Missouri 988, there's so many resources on there. People can download their own stuff. So Missouri's done a really good job of reaching out, communicating, and that has definitely increased the volume that we've had.
I do have another question for you. Just how can we ensure that crisis care tools and services are accessible, equitable, and effective for all youth here in St. Louis and across the state of Missouri?
This is really an important question. How are we going to make sure that crisis systems, crisis care 988 meets the need of our youth regardless of that youth's background? Tyler did a wonderful job of explaining the importance of texting and chatting accessibility. That is absolutely key. You have got to get help to people in the manner that they wish to get it in. Now, you may ask yourself, we came up with this mental health system where people have to go in and they have to go in to see a doctor at a clinic or they have to go to the hospital. Who decided that? Nobody, right? We didn't find out that this was the best model for providing services. It just was the way that we did things. And it turns out that having that immediate in-the-moment access where people can call or text or chat wherever they are in the moment. And this was really important during COVID. I'll tell you that people could text and chat because when you're in an environment with somebody and you're trapped at home with somebody, you might be able to speak out loud about what you're going through on a telephone. So that texting and chatting is incredibly important. There's another element that's incredibly important for youth as well, anonymity. The ability to call in or text in or chat in and not have to provide any more information than you really want to. When you call 988 or text 988 or chat 988, we will certainly try to get some information to be able to help connect you with services, make sure you're linked correctly, but you don't have to tell us anything you don't want to tell us. And that's incredibly, incredibly important. It makes it easier for folks to reach out, right? The other thing that's incredibly important, and this is something that we really need to do a better job with our youth, We've got to communicate the message that life is worth living. And I'm going to be honest with you all, we're doing a really crappy job of communicating that message right now, right? When you are a young person facing the challenges that young folks are facing today, and life is 8,000 times more complicated than when I was a teenager. It is so much more stressful in so many different ways. And one of the things that 988 really does at its heart, whether it's text or chat or phone, is it says your life is worth living. Your life matters. It's worth it. Right? So if you take anything away from all the messages today, it's really important. You matter, your life matters, everybody's life matters. 988 reinforces that, right?
Thank you so much. Thank you. Can't see you, Nora, but the next questions are for you, Nora. How do you ensure that the continuity of care is there for people who reach out through the 988 Lifeline but need ongoing mental health care?
That is a super important question because we are here to celebrate 988, but that may not be the end for a lot of folks who need continuing care. So 988 came at a great time in Missouri. We've actually been building out our crisis continuum over the past 10 years, and we launched community behavioral health liaisons and coordinated a statewide coordinated CIT response with law enforcement over 10 years ago. In the last few years, we've also developed behavioral health crisis centers, which are places folks can go. And we have strengthened our mobile crisis response. So 988 really binds all of that together and has helped us really, put the cherry on top of a much more rich crisis continuum. What's important about that is that all those places and positions I described are part of an integrated behavioral health care system. So the folks who are employing those helping professionals, whether it's the 988 call centers or the mobile crisis responders, they are working at our treatment providers. So we are the closest we've ever been, I believe, to a no wrong door system to mental health care. And so I think it is very important to have fewer handoffs. If a person calls in crisis, the less they get handed from party to party, it makes it easier. So as integrated as our system can become, I think that promotes the best outcomes.
And that's really important. Nobody likes to be handed off in any situation, let alone when you're dealing with mental health crisis. So how do you envision the future of the workforce for 988 Lifeline responders? And what steps are being taken to ensure a strong and sustainable workforce in the crisis care system across the state?
Workforce is a four-letter word across the nation. I'm not going to lie, this is a tough problem, simply because we have a shortage of workers in every field. But there are steps that we've been taking, and one of those things is making sure that we make use of all types of helping professionals. We don't focus solely on those who have a behavioral health license. It takes all sorts of folks. We've heard from peers. That's an incredibly important resource in the field of mental health and behavioral health. And so we want to make sure that we've got folks who are interested and passionate have the right training to be able to deliver an array of services. We've also come to understand that flexibility is key, and so some of our 988 centers are offering more remote work, so that's been more attractive, and I think that will remain something that will hopefully be attractive to future folks. But I do think we have to get to our younger folks earlier and help them understand what kind of opportunities there are for them to have a meaningful, impactful career, and help save lives along the way. So I think we have to start talking about mental health and the field of mental health much, much earlier.
Thank you so much for your perspective on that. Yes. So all the way at the end, Felicia Spratt, wanting to ask you, how does the 988 Lifeline contribute to improving crisis care infrastructure in St. Louis and Missouri, including the coordination and integration of services between mental health providers, emergency departments, and other relevant stakeholders?
That's a loaded question.
It's a loaded question, yes.
Thank you to the rest of the panelists for being here. And on behalf of BHR and our CEO, President Tiffany Lacey Clark, thank you all for having us here as well. Everyone has basically almost answered that question, if I can say. And I had a lot of thoughts and a lot of things in my mind when I was sitting here listening to everyone. When we look at 988, it's indeed important. Here in the city of St. Louis specifically, I want to speak on, almost a year ago, we did have this tragedy at the high school, I believe it's CPVA. At that time, what happened, and I believe 988 was already in effect, it was just get going, but we were able to utilize every single resource that we had. The key to this, everyone, is actually to break down the silos. That's how you integrate. You break down the silos. I believe Dr. Andrews spoke about, having the no wrong door. Nora spoke about it. And have the catchment areas to be spread out had become a problem because you were only able to go to certain places to get the help that you needed. But when 988 came about, it was really easy to connect individuals to services. And so with the integration of hospitalization, because hospital is not where you need to be. That is not the end result, and that's not the go-to all. Calling 911, right? That is not what we need to do. You call 911 for true emergencies. So having 988 and integrating it has actually assisted us within our region and our area within St. Louis to be able to utilize the CCBHOs, to be able to utilize the CBHLs, to be able to utilize the YBHLs, the CBHLs. Those are the community mental health behavior liaisons. The YBHLs are our youth behavior health liaisons. That just got implemented this year. So when we get those calls from 988 in this particular region, what happens is that we actually connect with them. We provide the follow-up services behind that. We recognize that we have the mobile outreach teams. So, hey, okay, we need someone to respond in person. The phone is not always going to be good enough. Can I come and talk to you in person? That is what we do when it comes to 988. And so if I can tell a personal story, a few years ago, I worked in the Department of Juvenile Justice with adolescent boys who was adjudicated through the court system. And I had a guy, he was with me for 22 months. It was only a 6 to 9 month program, but he was just there. He really struggled with mental health as well as suicide ideations. This young man was discharged. When he was discharged, that's when I was discharged. And I was, basically making sure he got out. Then I left. He stayed in contact with me. Then 3 years ago, we did not have 988. We didn't have it. But he was still in contact with me, and I was by then here in the state of Missouri. He called. His mother called. Everyone's calling. I'm at work. I missed the call. I get a message through TikTok, and I believe it was, Snap. It was the Snapchat or something to that degree, that, hey, this individual has took his life, died by suicide. I'm thinking it's a joke, you all. I'm like, yeah, right. You all got to be pranking me. But they sent me the picture. My heart was destroyed. It was broken because they called. I missed the call. They called 911. 911 missed it. They went to the house. They missed it. But what if we did have 988 back then? Instead of calling me because you couldn't get in touch with the human that you knew, but you was able to get in touch with someone. Don't call 911 unless it's a true emergency. 988 is the place to go because with the care coordination, and we are going to be there to be able to walk along the journey with you. So when we're looking at integration and the hospitalization, because the hospital really does just turn you around, but what we do in 988 and our follow-up teams and the community providers, we link together. A tagline under my department is one mission, one community, one voice. It's one.
everyone with the silos, you know, and we have to come together to make it work. And looking at everyone on this panel, it looked like we have been pretty successful in coming together and speaking one voice on today. And for that, I'm very grateful and I'm thankful for this opportunity. And as always, God bless.
Thank you. Thank you, Felicia, and thank you so much for sharing such a powerful story, which is an example of why the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline is so necessary. Before we've reached sort of the end of all of our questions, and thank you to all of you for so beautifully sharing your knowledge and your expertise with us. I want to close out our conversation with just taking 30 seconds or less with whatever it is that you want our audience to take away today. So we'll start with you, Felicia, and then we'll go down the line all the way down to Monica. 30 second
seconds
takeaways.
or less.
30 seconds or less.
If I can give you one thing to take away, it would be that break down the silos. Really understand that it takes a community of folks to make this work. Call 988. We're here. We will respond. And also to the point of the trust, we're bridging gaps. We're bridging the gap, but it's going to take all of us collectively to join arms and walk this journey together.
I'm going to actually echo my boss, Val Yoon, who regrettably could not be here today, but we've been talking about 988, and her point has been, give us a chance. Before you make that decision that you can't walk back from, please give us a chance. So please call, see if there is something that we can do for you, but please don't ignore this resource. And as several people said today, please share it. I have two teenagers. I have a 15-year-old and a 19-year-old, and I have plastered posters and magnets on the refrigerator and everywhere else, and their friends come over, and I'm the lame mom because I'm handing them out the 988 cards. But it is a really hard time to be a young person today. So give us a chance, spread the word.
There's a lot of different messaging, and when people talk about safe messaging, where I really want you to leave with is this idea is if you have struggled before and you sought help and you got help and you got better, tell that story. Please tell that story. There are so many of us that are struggling, and we're so afraid to reach out for so many good reasons. And when other people have reached out and had a good impact, it's changed their life. When you tell that story, you save lives. So if you, like you've heard people with lived experience up here tell their stories about getting help, that's life-saving. So please, if you've got a story where you reached out and got help and it helped you, please share that story.
Okay, I got three things, right? Okay, the first one is you're not alone. Everyone needs to understand that. There is 988. The second thing is BHR resources, or resources at bhrworldwide.com. I work in the community engagement department. If you have a group or organization on campus that you're willing and you want someone to come and talk with your group about some of the mental health issues, we are available. You can contact us that way. And finally, I'm going to put in a shameless plug. I'm a unicorn in this business. He and I are. Black males, we need you. Consider a career in mental health. And if you're a funder in the room or you have access to funds, we need scholarships so we can get these students ready to meet the demand that's out there. That's all.
The thing that I would want everyone to walk away with today, simply remember that your mental health is just important as your physical health. Just because you are struggling mentally, that does not make you weak. That does not make you soft. That does not make you any of the above. Just make sure that you are utilizing the resources that are there for you, and just remain perseverant. Because, like I said, 100% of your worst days. You're here right now. Just keep pushing.
we supposed to
Switch with Dr. Joe.
I just want to say that we just had to be our best selves. We gotta want better for ourselves. So be aware of yourself, get yourself help, be your best self for yourself. Like, that's it.
I'll leave you with one word: be audacious. Be audacious about your mental health. That means being bold. Forget the past, be bolder in it. And for those who can help with this, we got to solve this workforce issue. If not for the nation, let's do it for St. Louis. If not for St. Louis, let's do it for Missouri. You have enough schools of social work and helping professions in this state. We need our plan, and let's demonstrate that we can solve that. This is solvable.
I would say two things. One, trusting someone is the bravest thing you can do. Reaching out is going to be the hardest thing throughout the entire process, and once you do, things will definitely smooth over. And I also want to say that social media doesn't have to be a weapon, but it can be a tool. You can use it to advocate for mental health, for awareness, and for 988, like things that some people might not know about.
That's hard to follow up on. I think first and foremost, it takes a team. It is not, 988 is not what it is because of any one person, and one conversation is probably not going to be the one and done for folks who are in need. And the second thing is that a lot of us have experience growing up in a world that's not always the most compassionate or not the most committed to understanding what it is that we experience and why we need support. And sometimes that means that we have to go find the place that's going to be compassionate and be understanding. And that's the purpose of why 988 exists. So please talk about it, because by talking about it, you could be having a positive impact on someone else's life, and probably even your own.
I think I would say know the number before you need the number. We're not waiting until someone's house is burning down to tell them about how you can call 911 to engage with the fire department. So having that knowledge so that if you find yourself struggling, you already know where it is that you can reach out for support, or if you find that you have someone else in your life who is really struggling, who maybe isn't at that stage where they're willing to talk to you, you can point them in the right direction for where they can get that support and access.
I'll just end by I'm so zoned in into these roles right here because you've been so engaged this whole conversation. I don't know what they promised you at the end of this, but y'all stuck in there. But it tells me that you are our leaders. You are our leaders. And so I want you to hear this message. I want you to sit with it. I want you to not hear labels. I don't want you to hear necessary illness. I want you to hear wellness. I want you to breathe life into yourselves, into your friends, into others. Make this be a cool conversation because you could maybe save your own life or someone else. What was that homework? What was the promise y'all gave me? What was the promise? Yeah, who remember the promise? Y'all promised me something like an hour ago. Thank you. There's my future leader. Thank you.
Thank you all so much. Let's give a Harris Stowe round of applause to all of our wonderful panelists. All right. And that is the end of this part of the program. I'd like to invite, is Danelle Powell going to come up to introduce the next section of our program for today. And while he's making his way here, I do want to say I too am so happy to see all of these beautiful faces in these first few rows. Like I said, I have some young people your age who are in college, and I'm so grateful for this, the information that we received today. All right. Thank you.
Thank you again for all the panelists. Another round of applause for all the panelists. And at this time, if you need to be dismissed for class, you can. Again, my name's Danelle Powell. I serve here as the Director of Athletic Marketing and Development here at Harris-Stowe State University. Dr. Connors and with the several committees that was a part of this planning committee. So thank you, everybody, for planning and playing a part. What I wanted to do in this transition right now is, one, I wanted to bring up Harris-Stowe's mascot. We have Henry the Hornet approaching us here. And also to let everybody know, we have the women's soccer program is actually playing following the event. So they're actually starting. We're going to do a little processional after we eat. We'll do a processional to the soccer field that's right up the street, right up the road. We'll be led by a couple of performances. I also want to bring up, I know we mentioned a few times of this being a historically black institution, HBCU. We have all the Divine Nine organizations represented here on campus. So I'd like to bring up some of those students that's been in the presentation coming out. But before we do that, though, we'll have a brief 3-minute video that'll process, and following that, we'll have the performances and the introductions. So thanks again, and immediately following, we'll have is food out in the atrium, and there's also some literature on all the different organizations. So about a 2-minute intermission while we clear the stage.
I tell students all the time, you are the future. Well, if the future looks bleak to them, you know, that's not something that they really want to necessarily hear.
Over the last 21 years, the percentage of stories that are about negative things have increased exponentially. We're scaring our kids to death.
When you don't know that there's a bigger world outside of what you're living in, it's really hard to see past where you're at.
A lot of times youth aren't given the opportunity to, kind of make their own decisions and guide conversations. And so knowing that we care and that we understand that it's a difficult conversation for the youth to have sometimes goes a long way about making them feel validated and part of the solution.
There's options for you to tell people. Don't keep those bad thoughts in your head. Just tell somebody, or like a loved one or a friend, and they can help you.
I had someone to talk to and someone I can reach out to. I just learned how to talk for myself and not have other people talking for me.
Through a series of youth focus groups, we've really learned that they still fear talking about it will cause it. And if others see them looking at information or reaching out for support, they feel they'll be bullied in a sense. Our 988 task force and our Missouri Suicide Prevention Schools Committee really dug in deep to create a 988 virtual resource guide. And so it's really able to assist folks with videos, with links on every step of the process and who to contact.
And by creating a 988 system, so literally you only need to know 3 digits, we're making it easier for youth to get help on their own.
What 988 does is gives our young people an option to connect via chat or via text where they don't have to find a safe space to get on the phone, and they don't have to worry about their peers or someone else overhearing them access the line.
So we continue to look for ways that we can decrease the stigma around reaching out for help. And the only way that that's going to be possible is for us to educate our entire community to be able to ask, listen, and help someone get connected to that help that they need.
You can't force anyone to really tell you how they feel or force them to talk to you. So you just wait until they're ready to talk. I overcame it by reaching out and trying to communicate and talk to people who are able to help me out and who I feel like is there for me 24/7.
For somebody out there right now that is in a place where they're feeling tremendous pain, help is available. Please call 988 and at least talk to somebody about what you're going through.
You are not alone, and there's a lot of kids or people who are just like you, and who dealt with trauma, and you're not alone.
Honors in the services that she provide here for our campus. Also, a shout out to the men's basketball team who's been diligent in the front, focused, and Coach Cook who had them, and all the student athletes and students that came out to participate. This was for you guys. Dr. Connors has a few words, and then I'll mention the few guests.
Thank you. Real quick, if you are here for tracking mental health, the freshmen, will you please meet Melissa? She's getting ready to stand up. If you'll just meet her out in the foyer to get signed up. So that's tracking your mental health. That's for the freshmen. Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Connors. Now if Henry the Hornet can come by my side, and the president of the Hive, I'll let him introduce the Hive, what the Hive represent here on campus. Here's.
How you guys doing? I'm the president of the Hive. I'm James Glover. I'm currently a junior here at Harrisville State University. Some of the basketball players are also a part of the Hive, also just to throw that out there. You know, and we're not just here for just events and parties. We're here for things like this, mental awareness, letting people know that we are here for each other. That's what this is for, you know, just being here for each other, networking, just giving each other the support we need.
Appreciate it, Mr. James Glover. And now what I'd like to do is just introduce, again, here so we house the 9 different Divine 9 Greek organizations. So we have several student leaders on campus that are in those Divine 9. So that consists of, and I have those members start to process to the stage just for time's sake, but we have members of the different Divine 9 that's going to give a brief introduction and about their organizations. And then we have a performance by the Honeycombs, who's one of our student-led organizations. That's the dance program. So they'll be out to have a performance and then lead us to the soccer game. So if they can, we have all the members of D9 come up, give a quick blurb about the organization. And again, the importance of the organization and impact on campus. I've been an ALF for 25 years, so I know all about the D9 and what it represents. So I'll kind of pass the mic, starting with Ms. Jada.
Hi everybody, how you doing today? My name is Jada Heater. I am a Spring 23 initiate of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated through the Alpha Omega Citywide chapter. I'm sorry, I'm a little nervous. So we have a 5 problematic thrusts, which consists of educational development, economic development, international awareness involvement, physical and mental health, and political awareness involvement. So I just think it's really important that we stick together, especially being the only HBCU in St. Louis to have support with mental health.
Hello everyone, my name is Anaya Gurich. I am a Spring 22 initiate of the Bedazzling Beta Delta chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. So one of our initiatives is empowering our families. So something that our chapter is doing this month for September especially is bringing awareness to suicide awareness, since September is Suicide Prevention Month. So we're just making sure that the community stay informed, because that's the #1 thing of being aware and having a space to talk, is being aware of those spaces to talk, the numbers to call, the people to go to. So we're just aiding in the community involvement of staying informed right now.
Just say hi everybody, I am Adriana Smith. I'm also a Spring 22 initiative of the Bedazzling Beta Delta chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. And basically she said everything, so I'm gonna pass it off.
Hello everyone, my name is Bryce Pettiford. I'm a member of the Big Money Boxing Bay New chapter of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated. What's up, y'all? My name Brandon. I'm also a member of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated. And Kappa Alpha Psi is big on mental health. We feel as though brotherhood is an essential aspect of every fraternity. And being FAO brother does not go beyond, it goes beyond just being there in social settings and public, but also being there when your brother needs you the most and uplifting your brother, not only physically, but also mentally. And we have a big initiative, good health matters, and a major aspect of good health is good mental health. And I know in the Black community, we often overlook that, so we definitely want to uplift our brothers, be there for our brothers now when they need us most, rather than being there for them at their last moments.
How y'all doing? My name is Tamadre Brown, second vice of the Gamma Eta chapter of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated. Mental health is a big thing to us. We usually sit around at campfires and, you know what I'm saying, talk about what we got going on as a chapter, you know what I'm saying, to get all our problems stretched out, just so that each brother know that we got each other if anything ever goes down. So, you know what I'm saying, we make sure everything is good with each other and everybody else on the campus too.
Give those young leaders another round of applause, representing their organizations on the spot. And without further ado, and again, without further ado, we're gonna introduce the famous Honeycombs. They're about to give us a performance and then lead us out to the processional. Then we can grab some food. So once they're queued up, yeah, and they'll lead us to the soccer game as well. So. Another round of applause for the Honeycombs. And now you can excuse yourself to the atrium for some barbecue and food in the atrium. So thanks again, and safe travels for those who are traveling if you're not staying for the game.